Hello, my name is Lois Nachibuka. I am the team leader of ANDLO Smart Options.
And I am Ampere Grace, one of the tutors at Handle Smart Options.
We're delighted to be here today to share our experiences of supporting and training over 2,000 students in the 6 years that ANDLO Smart Options has existed as a training center for the IELTS. I know that lots of people, our students, have had different opinions about the most challenging part of the IELTS. According to your experience, what would you say is the most talked about part that gives people a challenging time?
Well, that would be reading. Yeah. Reading is absolutely one of the most problematic, components of the IELTS that majority of my students have come to me and tell me that, you know what, I'm struggling here. I really need help. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I am doing everything and I can't seem to get my desired band score. So I really, the cake would go to reading.
So IELTS is divided into general reading for those going to work and IELTS reading for those whose purpose is to study or to work in professional jobs such as nurses and doctors and engineers, etc. Are the question types the same, or is there any difference?
There is actually a difference between the question types that the general training students would do and the academic candidates. The difference is with the length of the passages. That is to say that with academic students, they find their passages quite long. More than 1,000 words to be exact. And with general training students, you find that their passages are, they're short, but also there is also the fact that with general training students, their passages are more of generalized topics, everyday things. Probably, for example, if we maybe advertising, how-to articles. Yet with academic students, the topics are more academic, like research journals, research, and also maybe history and art.
Right. Someone might just say, I want to do general, and yet they are going to study in outside of Africa. Would that be acceptable? Why would somebody need to choose a specific IELTS type?
Well, for that, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that if you have gotten a placement, you really need to read that email and find out what exactly they want from you. But at the same time, we do have students who, are thinking about it. They haven't yet decided. They haven't yet, applied to different places, so they may not be sure what they need to do. For such people, when you're going to study undergraduate, that means you're not going to go as a high school student. You really need academic. Undergraduate, postgraduate, you need an academic, you need to do an IELTS academic. While if you're going to study and, you're going as a high school student, you can do general. Yeah, you can do general training.
Right. Grace, that's really helpful information. This is meant to be a skills test. What kind of skills does a person require to ace this reading IELTS test?
We need skimming and scanning skill mostly. Those are the biggest part of it. You'll find that every test or every question structure that a student is trying to do, we're always going to be like, you need to skim, you need to scan here, you need to do that. But those are the biggest. But also you need, to have a wide range of vocabulary. This is because the language that is used in the questions is different, though with the same meaning, but they use different words in the questions as well as in the passage. So if one does not have that understanding that, okay, this word will be probably, guessing that maybe they might replace it with this word, you may fail to find the answer. Yeah.
I do recall that Nelly, for some reason, I think forgot the instructions and was not able to transfer the responses onto the answer sheet.
Yeah.
Is that something that, happens a lot?
It does. Actually, I recall her too. The thing is, sometimes, I don't know, maybe nerves, but it's important to read instructions. And unlike listening, you are not given any time to transfer your answers from the question paper to the answer sheet. What this means is you have to directly write your answers onto the answer sheet because they're not going to give you any extra time. 1 hour is all you get. So you're not going to get any extra time. So if you do not do that, you might, be registered as someone who did not do the reading at all. Yes, because the question papers are discarded.
Right, time management and reading, and not only reading but responding to instructions. I think that is one of the most spoken about challenge by examiners and people who supervise the tests. That that significantly stands out.
Yeah.
And for somebody who is intending to attempt the test, you need to follow the instructions to the dot.
Absolutely. Instructions are very important. You see, some of them are instructions that we may be unfamiliar with, and some students struggle with, what does this mean? When they say no more than 2 words, what are they meaning? Is it that I have to write exactly 2 words? Will I be penalized if I write 1 word? What is this to do? So usually you find that being unfamiliar with the instructions is going to be a big hurdle to cross. And at the same time, whether if you don't follow the parameters, you don't score the mark.
I hear you. I think one of the fears of the candidates is that if I write the response onto the answer sheet, it might be wrong. And what if I have to change it? What would be your recommendation for that?
Oh, using a pencil
Is totally acceptable.
Absolutely. I actually wouldn't encourage anyone to go with a pen for whatever reason. It is the worst because then you have to cross out everything, and it's just not something that you should do at all. Just go with a pencil, and probably 2 pencils, because if one lead breaks off, rather than taking the time to sharpen, you don't have that time. You see, that's how important time management is. You just pick up the next pencil and, start scribbling away. Of course, you go with an eraser too, just in case, and a sharpener. This is because, in case the 2 leads break, of course. Yeah.
Nerves and all.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that there are questions that stand out. I know students always approach me with, how do you approach this? What's been your experience in these stubborn questions, so to speak?
The stubborn questions, as they call them. They're very complicated questions that have really, really been a challenge to majority of the students. And, they're the same types of questions everyone is talking about. And the first being true, false, not given. The next being matching information questions, and matching headings questions. Everybody talks about how challenging these are, and I actually agree with them. They are challenging questions.
What is it that makes them popular?
One, now let me talk about, for example, matching information and matching heading questions. These are questions, now, for example, matching information questions require someone to have an idea of, it's a specific piece of information and it can be anywhere in the passage. Initially, when someone starts doing their test, they might be accustomed to the fact that questions are following a specific order. The order in which the information is given to you is the same order usually in which the questions are given. So someone might be accustomed to that and they get too comfortable. And then, bam, they find matching information questions where the answers could be anywhere. They're scattered everywhere. So this type of question wastes their time, and sometimes you find that information could seem similar in appearing in all paragraphs, and they struggle with that. With matching heading questions, kind of similar. It's kind of the same situation, with the exception of the fact that they give you more headings than the paragraphs, and yet you have to check all paragraphs to look for the information that you need.
Right.
So usually that's another struggle. Now, with true, false, not given, and its counterpart, yes, no, not given, you find that the issue is students are not going to be able to differentiate between, information that is true, information that is false, and information that is not given.
How so?
This is because sometimes information that is that is not given could be confused with information that is false. You just have to know the criteria of what makes something false and what makes something not given. So especially, for example, if information contradicts the passage, then it is false. But sometimes you find that it partially contradicts, but at the same time, part of it is not there. So it gets confusing. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Skills take time to consolidate.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the general knowledge. But if a person has already booked for their test and has only 1 week or 2 to attempt the reading tests, what is your take on that?
Well, firstly, I would like to say that it is absolutely important to give yourself ample time for this test. You really need to give yourself time, But if worse comes to worse, you've already booked and there is nothing you can do, no use in beating a dead horse, then generally familiarizing yourself with the question structure is of utmost importance. Different question types, the format of the test, different question types. This is very important. It is also crucial to learn how to attempt each question. The different skills that are required with each question, and also to read. They don't need to be, IELTS tests per se, but you really need to read to build the vocabulary, and also the practice tests.
Success stories have come through Anglo Smart options. Notably students like Dr. Ghazi Ali Raza scored a bar 9. Julius Mubiru, who's a doctor as well, but also Daniela, Nashiba, and a whole host of others have managed to score really highly, just failing 1 number in the entire test. Mm-hmm. What would you attribute their success to?
Well, one thing that they all have in common is that they really give themselves time. Mm-hmm. I mean, none of them was a 2 weeks person, if I'm being honest. They were here for a while, and they did practice, and they did do the reading tests. So yeah, I feel like that is the most crucial thing that one has to do if they want to ace the reading.
considering that reading is a skill that must be learned.
Absolutely, yes.
Apart from the actual practice tests, they were practicing intentionally. I do recall, it's only after they had the training that they were able to intentionally attempt those question types.
Yeah.
And indeed, the rest is history, as seen in their results.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say to a person who's just getting ready to attempt the IELTS reading test?
Well, just as we mentioned earlier, if you can give yourself time, please do, especially in a 1 month period. 1 month minimum. Yes, that is my recommendation. 1 month period to do conscious practice. Absolutely, to do conscious practice. So 1 month period. And if, nothing can be done about the amount of time you have, you realize that you need the training within maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, try to familiarize yourself with the questions. Yes, the structure, the question format, everything. You need to be as familiar as possible so as not to get surprised at the end of the day and, you freeze up on the day of the exam and everything is new to you. Yeah.
Indeed. And also, as above all, we must be reading.
Yeah.
Reading a lot to train the brain to focus on the printed word for that period of time. Of course, well, if somebody could argue and say, I'm going to be only scanning anyway, looking at the question and the passage for the answers. But still, do you not think?
Yes, reading is, of course, important because that is one of the ways one can build their vocabulary. Because there isn't any other way. Most people think, okay, I'm going to read the dictionary, get the new words and their meanings. But remember, when you read real articles and everything, you are reading in context, so you're getting those meanings in context and you're understanding the different contexts this information can come. Some words mean different in different contexts, and you need to know that, which is one of the things that IELTS likes to play with. Yeah, I noticed they like to play with that to get the idea that because different words mean different in different contexts, and they do that, and because you have, a meaning of something, usually you fail it. Another thing that reading helps with is that, with context, you kind of learn to use context clues as well, meaning not everyone knows the big words. So you come across a word that might not be familiar to you, but it's not going to be hard for you to understand and decipher because you are familiar with what it could mean in the context with which it has been given. Yeah. So reading is absolutely important.
Right. And as the name suggests, we read on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We really hope, and we've seen with all these recommendations and strategies that the reading bands and grades have drastically improved.
They have.
For our students across board. And so they actually work these strategies and insights into the reading tests.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Grace, for this invaluable information that you and I and the rest of Anglo Smart Options have gained over the 6+ years of teaching and training and supporting students to succeed in their IELTS journey. Thank you very much. So it is true that all these students who have aced the tests have followed your recommendations and had the opportunity to work with you and the rest of the team. So what's your message to the person who's watching and perhaps intending to attempt their IELTS soon?
Yes, for that, I really encourage everyone to practice. Practice is the key, as they say. So you really need to practice, put in all the effort, and also getting feedback from professionals regarding the test. You really need feedback. And you can come to Andlo Smart Options for the feedback, for the training and the tutoring.
Your input, insights into the test, and your experience are very much appreciated, Grace. And we have now ended this session. Thank you very much for being with us today at Andlo Smart Options.